Sorry, just hooking up the dab rig. Hey, how are you? All right, so a lot to go over today. Some maybe not want to. Maybe it could be fun. We'll see what happens. So I got passed off a meme from my friend Hunter Albright, and I had to share it. It's I really didn't have much of a choice. It brings up a very kind of pertinent question, right? So let's talk about this for a quick second. It's not like in the past governments haven't used lookalikes, right? We've used them in the United States. I'm sure we still use them in the United States. That's kind of what this fake Joe Biden thing is about, is whether or not we live in a country that would still do it. Now, what do we do if that happens? Well, of course there'd be conspiracy theories, guys like us saying, look at the ears, they're different ears. But the truth is that they really are different ears. And when you look closely at the photos, either A, this is a guy who's had like a chemical peel or something like that. It's like structurally, to me, doesn't really look like the same man. Now I understand, you get older, your body changes, but your body doesn't necessarily change like that, the way that his, the earlobes is the big one. So if you look at the earlobes, they're completely different. And it's not like your earlobes change as you get older. They become disconnected or connected. His earlobes are absolutely different. And I don't know if, that's the sort of thing that changes when you have like a facelift or something, but I didn't see any scars on his neck or behind his ears were kind of typically the telltale signs of a facelift. It's worth pointing out, man, that he doesn't, there are minor differences, and maybe that is something worth talking about, but maybe it becomes one of those things that the more you talk about it, the more you're told to shut up. And reason for inflation and gas prices, I'll get to that in just a second. So I don't know if I would ever say that the guy that is standing in front of us and pretending to be, or who is our president, is not our actual president. But I will say that he does look, he looks different from those two pictures, right? When you start looking at those earlobes, and you start looking at the earlobes of people who have died or have gone missing, or like the homie's mentioning, the Jeffrey Epstein earlobes. Those earlobes are different, and those are real things to kind of look at and pay attention to, because those are things that don't change. People lose weight, they gain weight, they shave, maybe they get a scar, maybe these things happen. But in the case of Joe Biden here, those earlobes aren't a thing that change. So we should look at it. Maybe it's not worth talking about it. Maybe the more you talk about it, the more crazy you sound. But the reality is this is a thing. The earlobe issue is a real issue, and it is worth talking about. Do I think that we're seeing two different people? I think it's a distinct possibility. We saw that with we've seen fakes used before. Saddam Hussein, his kids used them. We've used them in the past with presidents. First ladies, I'm sure, have used them. You see it in real life. You see it in the not real life. I mean, Queen Amidala, even she had her look-alike. It makes sense if you listen to Biden speak 10 years ago, because remember, there's been no mental decline, all right? We know because Jill Biden has told us there has not been any mental decline in that man. But why is he speaking less? It's not like he's gotten wiser and he's decided that if he stops talking and he listens more, then maybe we end up not realizing that it is or it isn't a different guy. I think that you get to, the great thing about now and living in the time that we live now is that everything is subjective. Whether it's truth or what truth is to you, that is absolutely subjective. Math is subjective, science is subjective, and these debates that we thought were settled, guess what? They're not anymore. We get to change the narrative because that's what we get to do. Now, I was asked a few minutes ago what I thought about inflation and gas prices. I think a lot of that shit's manufactured. I think that a lot of the things that could be done to ease the problem aren't being helped by the people that could ease the issues for us. And the folks that are making the policy decisions, they're not the folks that are affected by the decisions they make. So, for example, Adam Schiff, Democrat senator, I believe, might be a congressman. I don't know. Adam Schiff, interesting feller, but he said that not only would he not meet with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, but he wouldn't even shake his hand. That's tough talk for someone who's never had to be in a position where they've had to back it up, and they've always had someone that is willing to back it up for them. He's also not paying his own gas bill. $20 says that he's being picked up and dropped off by a service, by someone who's actually paying the bill, who is probably putting it on what's called a GTC. Now, a GTC is a government travel card. It means that someone is turning in a voucher with receipts every month, and they're getting it paid off, okay? He is not paying that bill. I'll bet my middle testicle. So, when you have the people who are speaking for our country or speaking as surrogates for our elected officials, then we run into a dilemma when you have guys who are really close with Ed Buck. Now, if you're not familiar with Ed Buck, he was a big Democratic fundraiser on the West Coast. He was one of Adam Schiff's homeboys, and he also had a knack for getting high with black dudes, doing gay stuff with them, and killing them. It was a thing that happened more than once. Adam Schiff was his buddy, vouched for him. It's his dude. It's his guy. Was his guy. So I guess what I'm saying is that you have to pay attention to who's saying what and who they are paying attention and who they are listening to. Because if we have a president who's telling us that he wouldn't shake hands with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia because he was involved in the assassination of a journalist, meanwhile he was willing to do whatever he was willing to do on behalf of Ed Buck because Ed Buck was giving him a shitload of money. So, let's be honest. Our elected officials are hypocrites who are, for the most part, lying as they go along. And you know what? We elected them expecting them to do that. Oh, thank you very much for asking questions, brother. I really, really do appreciate you hopping on. Now, as far as talking about the price of gas, I think that it's important to think about the fact that the people that could be doing things to build networks that would bring down the price of gas aren't doing that. They're stoking the flames. They want us in a proxy war with Russia, and then they want us in a standoff relationship with Saudi Arabia. Now, if the government of Saudi Arabia killed a journalist, that's a horrible thing. However, it's not my government that did that. And right now, gas is creeping up on $6 a gallon in most of the country. So, I don't want a government assassinating journalists. But in California, in some places, gas is creeping on $10 a gallon. So, you know what? If you gotta get rid of a journalist because he's making your leaders look bad, but it gets gas below $2 a gallon, you know what? I'm okay with it. It's not like we haven't, we're not responsible for hurting innocent journalists ourselves. Okay? Former Mike Pompeo, I believe he was the Secretary of State, was in on a plot to assassinate Julian Assange. Okay? It's all sides. It's not just their bad. This is something that we were planning on doing as well, under And this would have been under the Trump administration. So when people get excited and talk about Trump as this great freedom fighter, they seem to really seem to be forgetting that bad shit, really bad shit was done under his watch. A lot of things didn't change. Blowing up the kids in Yemen didn't change, okay? Still a thing that's happened. And long term, I don't know what the solution is, but I do think that the things that the crisis involving the high price of gas, I believe it was manufactured. I believe it is supposed to make things worse. I believe, and this is just my opinion, that just like any other crisis, the negative effects are there to be taken advantage of. Someone is going to make money. And it can be off good, it can be off of bad. I can tell you that 2020 was very good for a lot of people,